start with pulling up the PowerPoint so that I can give you all the QR code to click on. Give me 1/2 second here. Activate it first. And we're going to go over here. Mastering the close. All right. Slideshow from the beginning. All right. So I know everybody's cell phone obsessed and you're probably going to be staring at your phone most of the presentation. So I'm just going to encourage bad tech hygiene. Pull it out of your pocket now. Okay. And younger folks help the older folks in the room with this. Okay. So open up the camera on your phone. Younger folks, help them with this. I want you to aim your camera at that QR code. Do not take a picture of it. That won't do anything. Okay. What you need to do is just put that in focus on your camera, and you'll see, if you're running an iPhone, you'll see a little yellow oval. On Android, I'm not sure, but it'll just have a link that you click on, and that will bring you into the survey. Okay. And Ken, just give me a head nod when we're all there. Or a verbal, I can't see it.
All right. Yep, we're good, Jeff.
All right, awesome. Okay. So now I'm going to open up a different screen share real quick for you. All right, you guys are already getting after it. I like it. Hold on, let me stop my share and switch it over here. Share screen here, and I'm going to put it in present mode. All right. So how do you currently present irrigation proposals? Is it a verbal estimate during the site visit? Are you doing a written quote sent after the site visit? Or is it an on-site proposal where you're like, Kev, man, we're so technologically advanced, we don't even site visit. We just design off Google Earth and email that bad boy over. Because I think what'll help with the presentation is if we first have a good understanding of how most are doing it today. And what I'm going to do after this survey is I'm going to share with you how some best-in-class contractors do it across the nation. So next question, what percentage of your bids do you close on the first visit? So you're there, you're leaving with a signed check, and you're ready to roll. You got them scheduled on the books. 60, that's not bad. There we go. Yeah, and again, this is just, you know, if we participate and we give fictitious answers, it's garbage in, garbage out. If we don't participate, you give nothing, you get nothing. So again, this is your information. Y'all are going to have it in a nice report, and it's good information to help craft your plan moving forward. All right, so we got some that are closing right on scene. Not bad. Quite a few. Oh, look at this. Nope. I don't present price on my first visit. Okay. We got a couple of diverse answers here. So we're going to move on to the next question. All right. Do you typically offer multiple price options? You know, like that good, better, best, or what some call the triple stack? We got a split room, Ken. We got a split room. Man, this espresso is strong. Woo. I've been pounding double shots since 4 a.m. Just waiting for this. All right. Next question. What is the biggest challenge you face in closing sales? And this is one where you just go ahead and type in your answer. And I believe it's going to be a word cloud situation. So that means if others type the same response as you, the word will get bigger. But I can't remember if I set it up as a word cloud or if they're just going to come in right on the side. As soon as you respond, we're going to know. Okay. Timing. Price. And again, if somebody types the same thing as you, that word just gets bigger. If it's something different, it'll pop up. Give it just another minute. So we got a whole bunch of good stuff to go over. Price. Timing. Price. Leads, I assume. Getting leads. Then you would definitely want to stick around for the third hour, the one at 1 o'clock. We're going to talk about getting leads. Okay, so it looks like price is the biggest objection, and that's so that you're aware that is most common. Okay, so we're gonna give you some strategies to try to combat that. Next question. Do you actively look for customer body language cues when presenting a proposal? All right, somebody's doing it. What's body language? Only nonverbal communication I know. Never mind. Can't tell that. All right, so everybody's looking for body language. All right, so I'm gonna let you guys teach this one. All right, next one. How confident are you in overcoming objections on the spot? Very confident. I'm a closer, Kevin. Not very. I struggle with it. I'm okay, but I need to get better. That's where I fall. All right. Somebody's struggling with which answer they're going to take. All right. Next question. How do you differentiate yourself from your competitors when you're in that sales call? Right? And this is again, this should be similar like the word cloud. Oh, this one's different, not word cloud. Okay, certifications. Yeah, right on. Yeah, that's proof that you're committed. Customer service. We answer and call back. I'll tell you what, that's real important. That's like, and especially when it's new leads. I'm gonna give you some tidbits on that. And if we get more answers coming in, I just will scroll down so that we can see them all. So we got customer service, we answer and call back, quality, and the challenge really in a sales call is how do we convey these things, right? How do we convey quality and customer service on a sales call, which is the first interaction or dealing they're having with us, right? That can be challenging. I'm not saying that we can't do it. It can be challenging. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Next one. Do you include financing options in your proposals? Yes, no, I'm considering it this year. I'll tell you what, back in the day when I worked in distribution, which is probably about 20 years ago, we used to offer something through a third party, and it wasn't super attractive, right? It added like 6 points. It's between 3 and 6, depending on the finance option. And there were some contractors that jumped on it and they said, look, we're not incurring any of that finance charge. We simply just add it onto the price. So our initial price that we offer to the contractor is the highest one with the financing already built in, because that and then enabled the ones that didn't need financing, where that allowed you, you can never bring the price up, but you can always bring it down. So if there was an extra 6 points right off the jump, hey, you want to sign on the line right now, we can give you a fast action bonus of 6%. Right? Just kind of food for thought. All right, so nobody's offering it today. How do you educate your customers on the value of your irrigation system versus others? How to, and this, again, sales is a challenge. It's a skill, it's an art, and it's like any other muscle. We gotta exercise it to get better. A lot of espresso. All right, I'm gonna give it a minute. Nobody wants to give away their secret sauce. I got it. All right. What percentage of your sales come from referrals? And once y'all respond, I will give you the industry average based on all the data that I've mined throughout North America in the last couple of years. And we got some high referral business. So I'm just going to give you the industry average is about 55%. Now, 10 years ago, it was almost 100%. So again, in the third hour after lunch, we're going to talk about digitally marketing your company and dealing with the now customer that Amazon's created and how to wrangle that beast. Okay, next question. Do you track and analyze your closing rate? No, we're just guessing, right? If we want to, If we don't set a bar, how can we create goals, right? If we know we're at a 50% closure rate and we're running XYZ amount of sales calls a season, man, what would that do if we could just bump that by 10%? What would that do to our bottom line? All right, next question. Do you ask for the sale before leaving the customer's property? Like, I want to go home and celebrate with my wife tonight that we sold this irrigation system. What can I do to earn your business before we leave here? All right, got a 50-50. Next question. Have you ever shadowed another outdoor service contractor to compare sales techniques? Great idea. I should network with another contractor at the Ream show today. Food for thought. It doesn't have to be irrigation, right? There is a multitude of outdoor service businesses out there, and having a dialogue with them will pay dividends in a multitude of fronts. And I'm going to get into that during the presentation. It's another way to create value for your customer as well. My mantra is a rising tide raises all ships. I want irrigation looked at like plumbing or HVAC, a trade. All right. 2 questions left. What do you think would help you the most in improving your closure rate? Next question, Alex. Okay. Oh, let me go back. Somebody actually answered. Prices before COVID. Well, that ain't happening. Listen, I like buying $2 a dozen eggs, but I got to pay 8 now. That's just how it is. But I don't stop eating eggs. I'm hungry. All right. That was good. All right. Next question. Okay. How comfortable are you adapting your approach based on customer feedback in real time? So this is you going back and forth like, oh my God, I had no clue it was going to cost that much. Do you flinch when they say that? Or do you go, like you get that all the time and you know exactly how to combat it? You need to, when you're on sales calls and you don't get it and you get stumped, and we all know, Ken's been there, I've been there, we've all been there in sales situations where like, dang, man, I look like a real jackwagon. I had no good answer to that question. It was a good question. Man, write those down and develop a tactic for that. Develop it, because that's the only way we're going to get better at this. All right. Last question. What are you doing this winter to get better at sales? This should be easy. Kevin, I'm listening to you. Reading a book, taking a class. Man, there are podcasts out there. Education. Yeah, there's so much good. If we just swim in our own pond and we're looking for irrigation sales training, screw that. Go outside our industry. Look at other reoccurring revenue services. Look at other home services, man. There are a slew of killer podcasts out there. I'm going to give you some QR codes for some that I've seen some contractors do some really good stuff with. Reams. Yeah, there you go. Distributor partner. Training. Okay. I'm going to exit out of this. Again, those survey results will all be available to everyone. Just see Ken and he'll tighten you up. And now I'm going to switch gears and we're going to go into this presentation. All right. Where are we at? Right back here. And from current slide. Okay. Y'all see my screen okay?
Yeah.
You're like, man, those are 2 really handsome bald dudes on the screen, and my mom. What's going on there? All right. So I like to start with this because my dad married into an irrigation family, right? My mom's side of the family has been licensed plumbers specializing in irrigation for 97 years. And so when my dad was dating my mom, he got on a shovel real quick, right? He was working for my grandfather, but then years later, they're married. They've got 3 boys. We're all 3 years apart. I'm the middle one. And as you can tell, the most handsome of the 3. And with that being said, One night, my grandfather, who was very, he wasn't the sales guy, he was the get things done guy, right? And he said to my dad, right shortly after he broke up with his, my grandfather and my uncle were partners and they broke up. And so my grandfather was doing just service, but he said to my dad, he's like, Lou, if I could get somebody to sell these jobs, I could figure out a way to get them in. And my dad, was like, well, hey, I'm trying to feed a family. I have my day job and he was a suit and tie guy, but he wanted to make more money. So he said, okay, I'll start selling irrigation systems. The first lead he got was for a gentleman by the name of Nick Neary, who owns Neary Construction in Chicago. They do a lot of sewer and things of that nature. And when your name ends in a vowel, you got relatives, you got cousins. We're all, all the Italians here, right? So my dad shows up and he does his sales proposal. He measures now this is a rookie, right? So my dad is out there with the measuring tape and he's got the ruler out and he don't want to miss anything because the last thing he wants to do is underbid a job and then my grandfather's got to put it in and he hates his son-in-law, right? One go good. So he kept getting beat up by Nick. He went back to this site 3 different occasions. And the third time he went there, because Nick kept trying to hammer him on the price, he was out there, but Nick wasn't home. You know who was home? Nick's wife. And she asked him, Lou, what are you doing? And he goes, well, Nick, he wants me to take another $500 off this bill. And I think I figured out a way to do it. And she's like, you did? And he goes, yeah, I think if I move this head here and I put this one here, we'll still have head-to-head coverage. But the bad part is I think it's going to hit your house and all your windows. Needless to say, several hours later, he got a call from Nick saying, USOB, what'd you say to my wife? Put in the system. Just do it the original way. I'll pay the money. Persistence, right? Not only did my dad sell that job, he got both of Nick's brothers' systems and all of their cousins as well at his price, right? He found out the real decision maker was not Nick. He was just the gatekeeper on the wallet. And when he had that opportunity with the one who really wanted the irrigation system and the emotional connection, and they had a beautiful house, and when she heard her cheap husband was going to dumb down the system where it was actually going to put rust stains on their windows in their house because they're on a well, that was the lever. And I asked my dad, I'm like, what gave you the confidence to do that when it was your first call? And he said, Kevin, confidence. He said, it was necessity, and that's the mother of innovation. He's like, you kids eat a lot more than I anticipated, and my day job wasn't cutting the mustard. He's like, I had to sell. And so I thought it was just an interesting story to share with you. This next one that I'm going to share with you, you may have heard of this company. See if I can get this slide advancer to work here. What's going on here? Come on. There we go. So I met this gentleman by the name of Ken Hendricks. And I was in outside sales for the first time. It was the early 2000s. And all I was selling, I worked in wholesale distribution like a Reams, but all I sold was lighting and floating fountains and display generators. And so my coworker that called on the contractor that was bidding the work was on the sales call, as well as the contractor. And we met this guy, Ken Hendricks, who I had no clue, other than the fact that he had a 500-acre estate in southern Wisconsin, that he was a billionaire. And we spent 4 hours with this guy, and he was salt of the earth. I mean, he told me his entire story of how he started ABC Supply on a $1,500 out of dollar pocket investment, like 15 years earlier, and built it to this mecca. And he was so proud. He's taken us around in his Mercedes, right? And he's taken us on these gravel roads, and he takes us to this pond. And to me, it just looks like a pond, but Ken's an outdoorsman, and he gets out and he's like, behold the pond. And I'm like, what's it? It looks like water to me, Ken. And he goes, this pond, Kevin, has never been fished. And I'm like, okay, so I guess that's important. To me, it wasn't. So now we circle back to the front entrance of his property, and he's looking at about 50 grand in display aerators and fountains in the early 2000s. That was, even for, the guy's a billionaire, right? He had the money. But he said, hey, Kev, what about lights on these fountains? And I looked at the contractor and I said, are you okay with me quoting this? And he goes, yes, Ken's going to buy all the material direct. I'm making all my money on the installation. That's already been pre-negotiated. So please share the numbers with Ken. So I do the calculation. I said, Ken, it's going to be about 10 grand. I never saw a billionaire squirm so much. He's like, "Ooh, 10, Kev, that's a lot of money." And now I'm a young kid, right? And I just said, you know what? I'm going to take a stab. I felt I was reading them and seeing this amazing property. It was doing him an injustice to not sell him lights on this thing, especially when he's asking for it. So I said to him, I said, "Hey, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the ride in your Mercedes to the pond that's never been fished, I'm pretty sure you did more than $10,000 in damage to the ground effects on that Mercedes. Is that a fair statement?" He started belly laughing and he goes, "Yeah, you're right. Give me the lights." Right. So again, if we don't ask questions and we don't engage, and meet those objections, it's really hard for us to sell systems, and after that job went in, I had another opportunity to meet with him and go over the system. And he patted me on the back. He said, "Hey, I appreciate you giving me the perspective from your optics because this was well worth the investment." He's like, "I needed that nudge for the lights." He wanted it. He could obviously afford it, but everybody's values are different. And sometimes we assume just by judging the house that we know what their values are. Man, I have seen people spend money on stuff that they didn't have the money to spend, so don't, I guess, don't sell from your wallet, right? Give them the options. Now, I read this book called Atomic Habits. And one of the things that stuck out in this book was there's a chapter on George Clooney. And it kind of explained that he was, much like 90% of Hollywood, handsome guy, talented, but he couldn't land a role to save his life. And he said he had this paradigm shift that occurred for him where he stopped focusing on getting roles when he went into audition because it would make him nervous. And he stepped back from the whole situation and realized, hey, this director who's interviewing all these actors, he's the one who's got the problem. He's got to decide out of 300 people who the 10 are that are going to be in this film. So I need to present myself as the solution for the director, not nervous George trying to get a role. So instead of an actor trying to get hired, he became a professional who solves casting directors' problems. And he said that identity shift in itself boosted his confidence exponentially because he began to look at it from a detached perspective and even articulate that to the directors when he was in the cast. He'd say, "Hey, what are you looking for in this role? What challenges do you see with this particular role?" Right? He really, rather than, "Okay, I'm just going to read the script and cross my fingers and hope I got something." And when I read that, it made me think of Tom Brady, drafted third round, right? And everybody knows the story. This confidence that he had to walk into Mr. Kraft's office and be the third round draft pick and say, "I'm the best decision this franchise has ever made." Extreme confidence. So in sales, we need to have extreme confidence. And I'm going to give you a script on how to develop your mission statement. This is my buddy John Powers from Automatic Rain out of St. Louis. Who would not buy from that guy, right? John sold his company 2 or 3 years ago, and he stayed on as a sales professional. But what stood out when I first met John is the guy only buys 6-inch Pro Sprays and 6-inch I-20s, which blew me away because I had never seen anybody do that. And when I did the math, he's paying like $6 to $7 more a rotor, and he's buying them by the pallet. And I'm like, "John, how do you do this?" And what his response to me was, he said, "Kevin, people buy when you put them in a place of comfort. And I do that through educating them on how I'm going to solve their problems." He said, if they had a system before, they know the problems. If they haven't, then I have to tell them about the problems that they're going to have if they go with something than a 6-inch head. And he said, "Look, in St. Louis, we got clay soil and people are mowing between 3.75 and 4 inches. Why would we ever use a 4-inch pop-up in that situation? If we're putting heads on flex pipe, yards thicken up over time, flex pipe heads can settle." He goes, "If they've had a system, they all know what ring around the collar or ring around the head is." He's like, "But they don't sell itself. You have to get involved." And he said, just some of my go-to questions when I'm going on a sales call. I ask them right away, "How long have you been in the home?" He goes, "I take a personal interest in their property because that is what I'm there to service, right? I need to show interest in that. Have you recently updated your landscape? Sometimes we'll look at a yard and go, man, this thing's a dud. And we don't realize that they might have just spent a bunch of money to make it look just like that because that's how they like it. So asking some of these questions will keep you from stepping on your own toes. Have you ever had an irrigation system before? Were you happy with it? What are the parts of the system and the company that provided the service were pain points for you, right? He's asking questions to dig in. Again, amateurs dig in a little. Professionals dig way in. Okay. Now, dovetailing off of John, we're going to go to another John who I've learned a slew from. And John Lauer is the owner of Pro Outdoor out of the St. Louis area as well. And he is a numbers guy and real big on analytics. And so analyzing the process from the customer's optics, from inbound lead, whether it comes in a phone call, an email, social media, or website, right? As soon as that lead comes in, within 5 minutes, that customer is getting a phone call from a real human and a follow-up in email, as well as text communication with a hyperlink and a custom video once they've scheduled the service call. He took it a step further. 2 years ago, he called me up. He said, hey, can you come into town? I hired a film crew. And I'm like, yeah, well, what do you want to do? And he said, well, we've been gathering, our sales team has all of the FAQs, frequently asked questions, that our salespeople get on every single sales call. And what we'd like to do is have our lead salesman, Matt, sit down with you, have Matt play the homeowner. And because we use your products exclusively, we feel it would be more potent to the homeowner if you answer the questions. And I'm like, okay, great, but what are you going to do with this content? And he said, well, as soon as somebody schedules a sales call with us, we immediately email them and text them this video. And so essentially, we're already hitting them with the answers to the questions we know they're going to have in an easy 5-minute video. And it brings potency because the manufacturer of the product we're using is answering those questions. It's our lead sales guy who likely will be the one on the sales call. So there's already a comfort level and level of familiarity when we show up. And he said, when we show up, we've already have a design, a Google Earth shot of their home with a CAD design we've laid over the top, which takes us about 5 minutes in office. So we're trying to be different than everybody else when we show up. And unless they sign on the line that's dotted, we're not leaving that professional design behind, right? We're looking to close while we're there. Because what John said, and it resonated with me, is once you leave, you are nothing more than a number. If you send the bid after the fact, I don't know if it happened at the beginning of time, but it is in our DNA that we must get 3 bids, must have 3 bids, right? It's just how people's brains work. So again, the power of closing while you're there, and I'm going to teach you how to go ahead and present 3 bids without them having to call another contractor as well. My next one is a good friend of mine, retired now. He was the irrigation division manager for one of the largest landscape companies in Wisconsin, based out of Madison, called the Bruce Company. And Carl, again, he was just this very seasoned, high line, high energy contractor. And in the Madison market, there's about 10 irrigation contractors. And if you go with the Bruce Company, you're paying at least 10% more for the irrigation system. In some cases, from the guys who are on the very low end, it might be as high as 20 or 30% more. Now, Carl wasn't a 6-inch pop-up guy, but he did use I-20s, all right? And so he taught me a few things that have resonated. And he's like, Kev, I'm retired now. You tell whoever you want. And I thought, again, this is where role playing and repetition comes into play. The most common objection Carl would get after he delivered the bid proposal, which, by the way, Carl did not give it face-to-face. He would do the design and then send it. So I think there was even areas for improvement in his sales cadence. However, it never fails. He goes, Kevin, I get the phone call immediately. Hey, we got another bid from XYZ, and we really want to go with you, Carl, but you're $1,000 more than that other contractor. Carl would not blink. He'd go, $1,000? That's it? He'd go, typically I'm at least 1,500 to 2,000 more than that contractor. Let me take a look at my bid. I probably screwed something up. Can I circle back with you? Right? Having that in tow and executing that immediately, it's like the first time you get met with resistance in a sales call, we freeze up, right? If we've never had that question before. But he was so confident that he goes, Kevin, I don't want to be the cheapest the contractor. And I tell my customers that. He goes, I am not going to be the cheapest, but I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to be. I'm going to be the best value for your dollar. And it made me think about that, because when I bought an engagement ring, way back in the day, I knew nothing about them, right? And I didn't go with the lowest cost person. You know who I went with? I went with the person that made me feel like I wasn't getting screwed, right? They took the time to educate me on diamonds, which I could care less about. If I could get away with pure zirconian, my ex-wife would still have that instead of a $5,000-6,000 ring, whatever it was. But at the end of the day, Ava, my jeweler, her whole approach was educationally driven, and she didn't steer outside of my budget, right? And we'll talk about how you can get a budget number from a customer as well. The last one I'm gonna give you from Carl, and this is a good secret squirrel, soil probe, right? When he did estimates, he's like, I need to be different than my competition. He goes, so what I commonly did is I would bring a soil probe and I would walk around their yard and I would soil probe it. He goes, even though I might have done 10 jobs in that neighborhood and I pretty much know what the soil quality is, he goes, I wanted the customer to see what I was doing and ask the question. And they're like, Carl, what are you doing? The other guys didn't use that. What is that? He goes, well, it's a soil probe. And he's like, the other guys didn't use it? He goes, they should, because my single biggest piece of overhead in this installation is labor, putting shovels in the ground. And for me to not know what type of soil my employees are going to encounter on this project, it could drastically change my quote and make it not a non-profitable job for me. I've got to see what's going on in terms of soil quality, tree roots, because these are all things we need to navigate when we install this below ground irrigation system. Again, it was a way for Carl to make himself look day and night difference from anybody else. Now, my next one is a buddy I met a couple of years ago. I saw him in November. He's out of Austin, Dean Morin with the Green Patch. Now, Green Patch is like a total outdoor solution company, right? So they do mow and blow, they do hardscape, they'll plant palm trees in your backyard. But what Dean told me, and I like this, he said, Kevin, our most profitable lines of business are irrigation and landscape lighting. So it made me feel good that he's a Hunter FX guy, right? So when I was there in November, he said, hey, you got to come out to Lake Austin and you got to see some of these projects we're working on. Like, yeah, I'm in. Sign me up. Let's go. He goes, you're going to meet with my project manager, Brian. So I go out to Lake Austin, and to give you an idea, this is the neighborhood where Joe Rogan lives, Matthew McConaughey. Like, this is the economically exempt of Austin. And while I'm out there, Brian told me, we've been in this neighborhood for 3 years. He goes, Kevin, our average project size in this neighborhood is 1.2 million. Like, really? And he goes, yeah, let me show you this next house, right? So he showed me one McMansion, looked like a resort, and they've been on it for like 6 months and had another 2 to go. He goes, yeah, let me take you down the street to this project we already completed. So we go down the street, and as you can see, these streets, there's no sidewalks, right? They're not really built for commercial type equipment and things of that nature. Heavy stuff leaves indentations in them, all the stuff that pisses off all the homeowners. And as soon as we get out of the truck, this dog comes running up to Brian's truck, and he's like, Sam, hold on. And he goes, Kev, give me a minute. I got to bring this dog home. And he walks the dog back to the homeowners, has a small exchange of pleasantries, and he comes back and he goes, it's one of my secrets. He goes, nobody cares if you remember their kids' names. He's like, on this street, it's all about the dogs. He goes, and make no mistake, I know the name of every single dog on this street, and they all get loose. He goes, and I've gotten jobs from the fact that I remember their dog's name and they see what I've done for their neighbor, right? So making it personal, right? He found an angle, and he found that the dog was a major thing for him. The other thing was he figured out the problems that the homeowners have. Number one, you know what everybody in the neighborhood hates? Noisy equipment. They don't like the backup beeps. They don't like, so they bring on their most quiet equipment. And the other thing they don't like is these trucks and trailers parked all up and down the street. So in the bid proposal, the customer's paying for it, not them. They tell them, hey, look, there's not going to be a single piece tractor trailer parked in your driveway. We're not going to use a lot of equipment. They rent a barge. They bring their equipment in from the water, which adds thousands of dollars to the price, which the customers are happy to pay for because that it doesn't ruin. You think about it like Goldie Hawn and Overboard, if you know what I'm saying. That's the neighborhood. That's what they're dealing with. So recognizing that these are the things that tick people off, so we're not going to do them. We're going to go different. We're going to, what the customer is willing to pay to keep the neighborhood quiet and keep the streets looking clean. And the fact that Brian also brings all their lost dogs home keeps them working there for the last 3 years. So I thought that was a good one worth sharing. The next one, I met this kid last week. He's not a kid. Jacob Denny. He's the owner of a company called Lawn Scene out of Dallas, Fort Worth. And it was interesting to me because he was a mow and blow, right? Working 12 hours a day. And he started his irrigation company and dropped mow and blow 5 years ago. And he said it was because he was working on a project with an irrigation contractor and he saw how in 2 projects, the irrigation contractor was making more than him and he was in a truck 12 hours a day doing mow and blow. Now, in the next presentation, I'm going to get a little deeper into his, but the point, I said, what was the first thing you did when you started your company? He said, the first thing I did was I wrote a 6-page sales script. He doesn't do any installation. So Dallas Fort Worth is a real dense built out irrigation market. So all he does is go to existing systems and upgrade the existing systems, right? Adding smart control, adding things like MP rotators, check valves, pressure regulation. So even if you call him for a leak, he's going to identify the leak, tell you what hole there, but he's not leaving in his service techs, which he has 12 of now, scaled from 1 service tech to 12. And the guy's got over 1,400 5-star Google reviews. I mean, which is second most of any irrigation contractor in Dallas Fort Worth. But he put all the emphasis on his sales scripts. He said, he goes, and when I present my good, better, best option, unless the homeowner reaches for their gun and says, get the hell off my property, I'm not leaving. He goes, I don't put pressure on my service techs to get to the next job. He's like, if it takes 45 minutes to close that homeowner, that they're the only person that matters. That is the only thing that matters. They use a CRM. They're on Service Titan, so they can present everything on a tablet as they're walking through and select those options. He goes, well, we are not leaving until we get a signed contract for something. So last one before I get into a little bit of body language. That's my realtor, Greg Bach. I have used him now for 3 home purchases. And it was interesting to me. We were having a conversation once and he said, Kev, once I hit my retirement number and I no longer needed monetary gain from my customers, he said, my closure rate doubled. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, it took the pressure off and I had more confidence because it was like, I wasn't, the body language, how I was presenting homes, how I was trying to encourage people to purchase the homes. He's like, I was coming in a little hot and I softened everything up. And I thought about it because I've seen over 65 homes with this guy. And he does not pay attention to a word that comes out of my mouth. He doesn't try to encourage me to, hey, do you want to make an offer? All he does is observe me. And this guy has turned me on to some good body language books. So I'm going to share with you. But he goes, within 5 minutes of me walking into any of these properties, he would look at me and go, he knew if I was interested. If I wasn't, he'd go, come on, let's bail. I mean, just by studying me over hours of going to all these properties, he knew where my head was at without me saying a single word, which got me to thinking body language, pretty informed. Now, you might not know this, but I have my PhD in body language. And let me show you where I learned it. It only took me a 2.5-year divorce and countless hours in a courtroom and about $150,000 to develop the ability to read body language, right? When you are trying to deal with custody and time with your kid, emotional decision making equals profit margin. So if you want to skip industries, get into the wedding industry, become a divorce attorney, because when the decision is emotional, there is no budget. Okay. Now, I can't give you all the body language cues. I'm just going to give you a handful, and then I'm going to lead you a breadcrumb trail to where you can get them. So number one, when your customer is what we call lip pursing, that is a clear indication of disapproval and doubt, right? When somebody presses their lips together, they ain't feeling you. Now, for you as a sales professional, the most powerful hand gesture you can have is what we call the hand steeple, right? It doesn't matter. This is universal across every continent and every language in the entire world. Hands pressed together, the higher the better. Women tend to steeple low. Ladies, if you're in the room, raise that steeple up. Don't steeple below the table where nobody can see it. This is a high confidence hand position. When you are presenting to your clients and you are working through their objections, a hand steeple is the best posture you can possibly have. Now, again, to the observation side of things, okay, this is more prevalent with women than it is with men, but neck touching above the collarbone, below the Adam's apple, they ain't feeling you. They're distressed, insecure, and uncomfortable. They're not liking what you're saying, right? These are just, I can't go through them all, but this book is absolute gold. All right. This is one that my realtor, Greg Bach, turned me on to. It's written by Joe Navarro, who was an FBI interrogator for over 25 years. And he is a body language expert. That QR code will take you right to Amazon where you can purchase it. I've listened to this one on audio over the 2 weeks off for the holiday break about 10 times. I'm working on a presentation that will be nothing but body language at all, because I really think that 70%, according to Joe, of communication is nonverbal. It's vocal inflection, facial expression, and body language. Just a tip, the most honest part of the body is the legs, right? We can control our hands if we're trained. We can control what comes out of our mouth. The legs, watch the legs. If you get out of nowhere, if you can see a jump in your customer's legs, they're excited if it's like a constant tap. But the other one, and this book is gold as well, Chris Voss, who is an FBI negotiator, called Never Split the Difference. And it's got 4.7 stars out of almost 50,000 reviews. If you're going to do 2 takeaways from this presentation and in trying to up your sales game, never split the difference, and what everybody is saying would be the 2 that I would attack. Now, for our last 12 minutes, and I may run over, so if you're staying on, I'll ask Ken, because I'll roll right from this presentation into the next one, because I really feel like this stuff I'm going to share with you now is very potent. Understanding your sales approach. So last year in November, we hired this guy by the name of Ryan Lee. So Ryan Lee was a landscape lighting contractor out of Dallas, Fort Worth, running a 7-figure business. And the last 6 or 7 years, he is a sales and business coach for landscape lighting. But what's applicable in landscape lighting is also applicable in irrigation. We paid a boatload of money to have this guy come in. Typically, if you're going to attend one of his all-day seminars, it's $2,000. Guess what? Because you're listening for me today, it's free. I recorded the whole thing. I'm going to give you a QR code for it. Let me walk you through it, right? Number one thing he says, as a salesperson, you have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. Don't design out of your own pocket. Do not walk into that project and do what you would do for your own house because you think it's in the best interest of your customer. It's the wrong approach. Design it right, charge it right, and over-deliver on what you're doing. Now, he has this secret sauce, right? It's broken down in a few steps. He calls number 1 is the price marinade. Number 2 is the offer stack. Number 3 is supply and demand pricing. And number 4 is the triple stack option. Let me break it down for you. And again, everybody in this room can have the entire presentation in PDF, as well as I'm going to upload it to YouTube so you can watch it back. But I really think the verbiage in these slides is the gold. So the PDF will be beneficial to you. Okay. So it starts with the belief stack, right? And this is you leaving today, getting out a piece of paper and sitting down and asking yourself and answering these 3 questions. Number 1, my irrigation company is better than any other irrigation company in my market because. Next one, I'm a more qualified designer and installer of irrigation than anyone else in my market because. And the third one, if someone doesn't choose me for their irrigation system, they will regret it because. This is your mission statement. You know, I always ask people like, give me your elevator pitch. That means tell me why I should go with you in under 60 seconds. And if we can't do that, doing this mission statement will do 2 things. The most important, it's going to Tom Brady you and George Clooney you. It's going to give you confidence. If you take the time to write this out and look at it every time before you get out of the truck, what holds us back from making more money and closing more sales is fear. It's fear, right? It's lack of confidence. If we write our belief statement down and we look over our belief statement every time before we get out of that truck to go on a sales call, you are going to be more confident. And the more sales calls you go on, you're also going to increase your confidence. Now, we'll start with the price marinade because that's right from the jump, right? The problem being we need to address the biggest resistance, which you guys said in the survey. It's the price. That's what's most met with resistance. So Ryan's tactics are, let's address it right off the jump. He said, number 1, for inbound new calls for new systems, you need to be answering that phone within 2 rings. If you're not set up in a situation where you can do that, hire a VA. You can get a virtual assistant overseas that you can give your script to that answers the phone within 2 rings for about $6 an hour, right? During the winter, I'm sure you can do that. In the springtime, it's worth the investment to have that VA because this is hot. You know, this is the now customer day and age. When they call, you answer within 2 rings and then you begin the price marinade. Do not ask. I know we want to pre-qualify people over the phone, but the worst way to find out what somebody's budget is to ask them what their budget is. They're never going to tell you the truth if you flat out ask them. Okay, this is all, I'm articulating everything I learned from Ryan, and you can watch it live from him as well. I'm just giving you the highlight reels. Okay, he says the best thing to do when they call, our minimum job size is X in terms of dollars. Our average project size, and I know this is a variable, right? So go wide in that variable. Our average size job is between 5 and 10 grand. Our minimum size job is 4,500. Whatever that is, that's different for everybody in the room, right? Because by asking that, you know exactly what they're going to say over the phone. Wow, that's a lot more than I thought it would be. And to your response is, what did you think it was going to be? What's the answer? Their budget, right? That is the most tactful way to get a budget number from a client without asking them their budget because they get defensive when you ask the budget. So you have to get the budget out of them through that question. And it's a killer way to obtain it. Now to further the price marinade. So now you show up, right? And this yard is way bigger than average, right? You need to address it before they do. Again, you're going down the pricing road before they do because you need to soften them up. You need to get them used to that piece. So, hey, as soon as you show up, it's bigger than average. Compliment them on their property immediately. Tell them, hey, this is not wow, your house is exceptional. This is no way an average job for us. I know I told you we gave you an average on the phone, but you know this place is fantastic. It's, again, give a huge wiggle room, right? Give a medium to, hey, this project is somewhere between 10 and 20 grand, potentially, right? And what are they going to say? There's no way we're spending that much. Fine, no problem. Your response, how much did you think it was going to be? And again, now you're getting that face-to-face budgetary number, which likely will be different than the one they told you over the phone because they knew they had a bomber property. But, again, as soon as they say a number, then they think you're going to take them to the edge, right? My Uncle Bob this is back in the day in the 60s and 70s, when he would pull up to the economically exempt neighborhood house, depending on the square footage of the house, that would determine how many more thousand he was going to add to the bid before he even started the process. God bless Uncle Bob. May he rest in peace. He was a closer though, right? So to further that price marinade, okay, let's walk through your property. I'm sure we can find something that fits your budget for this beautiful property that you have, right? Going further into the price marinade, okay, do you want me to design this system on price or possibilities? We always design based on possibilities. And if that doesn't work for your budget, what areas would you like me to remove from the design, and what plants are not that important to you on your property? Right? Again, you got to get them used. You're working them, right? You're trying to go from an amateur to a pro, right? Let's get emotionally involved with the customer. You got to get base hits. You get base hits, 4 base hits, somebody drives it home, right? We're looking for base hits in that sales call. Move your customer from sticker shock to sticker relief. And that's why you tell them, hey, it's good. It could be between X and X. Those numbers could be 10, 20 grand apart, right? But we need to get them used to hearing that number, because then when you give them the bid and it's only 12.5, there's a sticker relief to them. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. There are 2 ways to create value. You tell me which one you want to do. Decrease your price or increase your offer. Differentiate yourself with a larger offer instead of a lower price, right? And this is where we go into what's called the offer stack. And this is where you're creating value, because there's a multitude of things that you can offer your customer that doesn't cost you anymore, right? Manufacturer warranties. They don't know what the manufacturer warranty is. You can make it up if you wanted to. Say, but to have a dollar value attached to that warranty for X amount of years on labor, parts warranty. These are all things that don't cost you anything, that you can put in your bid proposal. And this is when it comes to nut cut time, right? And you're trying to close that sale and get the number down. These are things you can use to finagle with. Maybe a discount on the annual maintenance for the first year or the second year. Platinum level monitoring plan if it's a HydroWise customer, right? I always say the best way to set the hook is give them your monitoring plan for free with any upgrade for the year. Let them see the value of getting the water savings reports. And you can create differentiating factors in your monitoring plans, all which have a dollar value to your customer, but don't cost you anything. Service discounts. This one I love. Ryan said every time he went to sell a job, everybody got a discount of $350. He called it the fast action bonus. If you sign the contract today, we can give you $350 off that number I quoted you. Call me next week, that's gone. Can we get you scheduled? Okay. Furthering the offer stack. And this was an aha moment for me during his training. Network with other outdoor service companies. Call them up. Tell them, hey, I'm an irrigation contractor. I know you're in outdoor services as well. Would you be willing to offer some sort of cash discount if I include your information in every bid proposal I give out, right? This is value that doesn't cost you anything. Hey, we're affiliates with this pool company. You move forward with us on this price, they're going to give you an automatic $200 discount off of any pool service. I noticed you had a nice pool. Landscapers, window cleaners, HVAC, gutter companies, garage door companies, right? These are all things that these develop relationships, and you in turn give them the same thing. Hey, include my information when you do bid proposals, and we'll come up with a flyer, and that'll give them $200 or $300 off a new installation with our company. This is where the networking piece comes into play in that offer stack. Now, supply and demand pricing. This is Ryan's words. You should not be changing. You should be charging the maximum amount that somebody is willing to pay for the system. It's not greed if they're willing to pay for it. Give them options. Let me ask, do you change your pricing if you're booked 6 to 8 weeks out? Ryan says, you better. right? Two ways to create it. This one I love. So I had a contractor, and this was during the COVID years, right? And he sells that, what we're going to call the triple stack, good, better, best system. So every bid proposal, he's giving them 3 bids. And I know from a consumer's stance, when I get met with a good, better, best, I typically fall in the middle. And I think I'm fairly normal in terms of a consumer and how I look at things. So ways that this particular contractor taught me: fast action bonus, like Ryan said, hey, you sign today, we can give you X off right now. Other things, go to MSU University, right? Making SHIT up a little bit. So with this particular contractor, he does a diamond, a gold, and a silver. So with that, during the COVID years, when all of his competitors were 3 months out, the homeowner would be like, hey, we want to go with the one in the middle. You know what? Our installation crew for the gold systems is currently 2 months out. Our installation crew for the silver one is currently 3 months out. Our diamond crew is only 2 weeks out right now, which, by the way, the diamond system was his most profitable system. So he solved the solution, right? The problem was the homeowner wants the system now. And everybody else he's calling is in the same boat. They're booked 6 to 8 weeks out. So raising the price to a number where, different installation crews, no, all of his installation crews are the head spacing's the same. He's making the differentiating factors with the product that he's installing, right? Pressure regulation, higher pops, check valves, smart control, things of that nature. So again, you get to create your own sales script. You get to create this value. Here's the triple option, okay? Everyone has a different set of values, so we got to give them different options. In St. Louis, people are baseball crazy, and around the warning track and in some areas of the field, it's all I-25s and I-40s. So we came up with a flyer for the contractors in St. Louis called the Diamond Package. So essentially, it was like, hey, if you want the same heads that are on Busch Stadium, scaled down version of it, right? Stainless I-20s, that we call that the Diamond Plan. I had contractors, I've reprinted this brochure thousands of times, and I've had contractors tell me that literally people would pull out their credit card and put it on their credit card because they wanted they wanted to be able to tell the neighbors they had the same sprinkler heads on their yard that water Busch Stadium, right? So in this offer stack, this triple option where we're good, better, best, option 1 is your entry level. Option 2 is where you want them. That is the system that you were going in to sell them initially before this training as the only option for them, right? This is that you got the profit you want in that job. You're profitable. They're going to get a good system. They're going to be happy. Option 3 is your decoy. That's the diamond system, right? You got to create your own bolt-on values. And when we look at that, here's just a couple different options that I pulled off the internet, right, of creating perceived value. Right? Here's our core maintenance membership: spring activation, fall winterization, backflow test, automatic renewal, automatic scheduling. Oh, you want to go executive? These are ways where at the end during the close, I'll tell you what, I led with my best price. I can't come down on my price, but instead of our core maintenance membership, we're going to give you the VIP membership for the first year, right? That includes the HydroWise monitoring. Any repairs we got to come out and do outside of the unconditional warranty, we're going to give you a 10% discount, so on and so forth, right? You create the value. Now, when you're pricing the triple option, Ryan was dead set on this. Again, your 100% number, that's where you normally would bid the project, and it's a profitable project. The one that we're just putting out there that we don't expect them to go towards, is within 10% of that. Right? Your best option, your diamond option, double the cost. Right? Don't decide that your customer's wallet is your wallet. Give them options. And the reason you're doing this is everybody needs to say no to something. And the triple option allows them to get 3 bids without getting 3 bids from anybody but you. Right? You are giving him those options right there. Now, the close, and this one has a lot of detail. So, okay, this was Ryan's cadence. I'm going to go to the truck to put some options together for you. And again, you need to present the bid when you are face to face. If you're, and I know a lot of us are emailing it after the fact, man, you are just a number. You are nothing more than a number once you leave there, right? So what he would say, if you got to get a printer in your truck, if you got to figure out how to get it done, get it done. You need to hand them the bid while you are there. And his move was this. Hey, I'm going to go to my truck to put some numbers together for you. When I'm done, should I knock on the door or can I just come in? That's a heat check right then and there, even without the body language cues. If they're like, oh, Ryan, just come in, you know they're digging you, right? If they're like, no, please knock, you know you've got to have your game together when you come through that door. Okay, now you go in. Hey, I put together 3 options for you. Okay, what's holding you back from moving forward today? The price, as you guys all know. Hey, we want to give you the white glove experience, and I always lead with my best price. We don't have enough built into this price to cover the 5-star experience we provide. What would it take for me to earn your business today? Again, this is where you can start adding or subtracting some of those bolt-on things that cost you nothing, right? Those discounts on service calls outside of the unconditional warranty, the platinum level monitoring plan, okay? Now, with all objections, and you're gonna get them, you need to agree. My brother taught me this once, and because I watched, he was there to do a hot water heater replacement, and at the same time, one of the units in this building had frozen up, and there were broken pipes everywhere. And he asked me to be there just to help him get this hot water heater up, right? And this lady comes out and she starts berating him, saying how the bearing wall's got to come down and there's going to be mold and there's going to be that. My brother had nothing to do with that, right? And he just sat there and he sat there and he sat there. And when she ran out of breath, he said, I agree. And she stopped and she goes, well, that's one way to shut me up, right? So again, always agree with their objections. Say, hey, I see where you're coming from. Is there no way? There's no way I can do that. I always lead with my best price. The pre-close comment to get them to commit before you do is this. I don't know if we can do that, but if we could I get you scheduled today? You want that pre-close confirmation from them. Yeah. If you could add in that extra maintenance plan, or you could drop it $500. Yeah, we'll sign today. They're like, okay, you're the boss, you're the owner, it doesn't matter. Okay, let me go. I'm going to go out to my truck. I'm going to call the boss. I'm going to see if we can't do this. All right. When the guy, the founder of Under Armour, when he started the company, he had 7 business cards. He was whoever he needed to be at that point in time. He had one saying he was the lead marketer. He had one saying he was the CEO. He had one saying he was the sales manager, the production manager. You know what I mean? Like, you're in control of this sales situation. All right. So you want both decision makers to be present, if at all possible. ID the person who's emotionally involved in the decision making. That was my dad's mistake initially when he met with Nick. He didn't have Nick's wife there. Had he probably would have saved him 2 callbacks to get that job. There's always one buyer that's ready to go. And if neither are ready to go, you're likely going to get a hard no, right? We're just not ready to make a decision right now. We need to sit down and discuss it together. Your response should be, okay, just so I'm ready when we talk again, what types of things are you two going to discuss, right? Always dig deeper, dig deeper. So I see that you're ready to go, but you're not. What's holding you back from letting me go home tonight and celebrate with my wife that we earned your business? I don't want to waste your time or mine, and we want to get you scheduled, right? The walkout close. Fast action bonus of $350 is only good today. So if you decide next week, I won't be able to make that offer to you. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go out to my truck. I got a couple of phone calls to make. When you guys are done thinking about it, just come get me. All right. Final thoughts. You're there to be their servant. You're there to be their advisor and their teacher or educator, right? Keep the conversation going with questions. The more questions you ask, the more you show your customer your commitment to them and interest in their property. And remember, every lost sale is a learning opportunity to become better as a salesperson. The questions that get you stumped are the ones you need to develop tactics for. That is the QR code. Like I said, that's a $2,000 QR code right there. When you hit that QR code, it's going to take you to my Google Drive. And there are 3 videos that will give you 5 hours of Ryan Lee's. Again, he's landscape lighting secrets. Everything in there is applicable to irrigation as well. And if you're doing landscape lighting, you're welcome. I just saved you $2,000. Last thing I'm going to tell you, remember, like football, sales is a contact sport. We got to be able to deliver the quote while you're on scene. I'm going to put this up for just a minute, okay? That QR code is my contact information. And one of the ways that my company and my boss judge whether or not I'm bringing value during trainings is that QR code right there. So if you found value in this presentation, I would ask that you hit that QR code and pound me a 5-star Google review. Now, if you did not find value in this presentation, keep your phone in your pocket, and my name is Ken, okay? Now, we're going to roll. Ken, should we just roll right into the next session?
No, it doesn't start till 11.
The next one doesn't start till 11? Okay.
So we got a break. So if you want to stop the recording, we can do that. And then do any of you guys have any questions or comments or anything for Kevin that I can relay to him?
Well, could I ask him to, he was going through and I didn't get one of the screens.
Which one?
Yeah.
It's like 2 or 3 screens back.
2 or 3 back.
That one?
Or one of the white ones. Keep going back, Kev. One more. That one. Yep. Yeah. What's that? Let's go back to the Ryan Lee QR code. That one there. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, good. It's something different. We don't need, products. If you guys want to learn about products, we got that out there. We'll talk to you guys about that. But we want to, like Kevin said, we want to raise the bar across the industry. So we want to help you guys be more profitable. Everybody's busy. If you're going to be busy, you might as well make money. So
yeah, listen,
we're going to do. Go ahead.
My position has been created by the board of directors at Hunters because we want this to be the long game investment in why you use Hunter products. So we want to give you something for free that we couldn't put in a box and sell you if we wanted to. But if you take it and apply it, it will help add sales and profitability to your company. And that's exactly what you're going to get with the next 2 presentations today as well.
Yes. So the next one is at 11. 11 is breaking the mold, and then at 1 o'clock is